This is Mike and Joanne DeDocco. By the way, Mike is currently the president of the Rhinebeck Aerodrome Museum.
Welcome. So with that, I get to introduce Jim Hare, who I gather is the announcer for the Aerodrome and has been with the Aerodrome for
a long time.
many years. And so I will turn it over to him.
I've been there a long time. Not as long as some in the room, though. Bill and Dave King are here, and they've been at the Aerodrome 66, 7, even longer than I have. But anyway, thanks for coming out today. It's a great time of year to start promoting the Aerodrome. We're thrilled to be part of the Red Hook Bicentennial, and really looking forward to that Sunday, July 1st, free air show. If you're a Red Hook resident, show ID, come on out. I hope we'll be putting on the best show of the season. Hopefully the weather will be nice, but the Aerodrome, even though it goes by the name of the old Rhinebeck Aerodrome, most of it is actually in Red Hook. But Cole Palen's address when he first moved there was in Rhinebeck, so that's how it became Old Rhinebeck. So nothing against the people of Red Hook, but anyway. So the Aerodrome has been around since 1959. Cole Palen started the Aerodrome back then with a small collection of World War I airplanes that he had purchased. His plan was to have a little grassroots airport out there, do maintenance, tie downs, things of that nature. But the air shows are developed on their own, and over the last 52 or 3 years, it's become world famous as a mecca for those that are interested in antique airplanes. It is known all the way around the world. I'm sure if any of you have traveled anywhere and you say where you're from and you happen to mention Rhinebeck, the first thing they say is, oh yeah, the old airplanes. And I'm not a big one on DVDs and videos, but I have a short 4-minute video that we just came across recently. It's from about 1987 or so, I'm guessing.
89.
89. And it catches Cole Palen in his natural state. It's 4 minutes, so we'll just open up with that. For those of you that maybe never saw Cole, or never met Cole, or have no idea who he was or what he was, this is a nice little introduction to it. For the Aerodrome people that are here, this will be added to the Aerodrome archives. It'll be very, very nice.
Oh, Mac. No, never mind.
Oh no!
It's a real computer?
That's perfect.
You want to watch Ricky?
No, this is us. Dave King is in this video briefly.
In 1929, my father lost his job, like everybody, so many people did. 1929, he went back to the farm. And the farm was next to the airport. I was 3 years old, and that's where I grew up. That was the beginning of my fascinating career.
When did you start flying?
Started flying in 1947, and it cost me $62.50.
That's what it costs to get a license or to learn how to fly?
To learn how to fly, 8 hours of dual instruction and 5 minutes by myself in the air.
Captain's log, stardate 1958. Sputnik and Explorer have just launched Space Age, and in Rhinebeck, New York, Cole Palen has just launched his Aerodrome.
Well, it's sort of just plain evolved. I thought this might be a home for my old airplanes, but not with the idea of using the old airplanes. The idea was grassroots airport, we fix the airplanes, we rent the airplanes, we tie down all these little things that make up a grassroots airport.
How large is your collection?
There's about 50 airplanes that look like airplanes. And there's others that are commercial passes.
How did you get the idea for this Aerodrome?
Before I even was collecting airplanes, I knew that there was a beautiful collection in England called the Shuttleworth Trust, and that they were flying World War I airplanes. And so when I was able to acquire 6 World War I airplanes from the field in 1951, I felt that, well, maybe I could really get one flying.
What about the romance of flying?
Well, if I was 20, I would say the romance of flying is the speed and the noise and the girls and all of this. But now in my
30. Now that you're 30.
now it's green grass, blue
you fly in bad weather?
No,
Neither do I. We didn't fly right away. The rain came and the thunder. Heavens opened in a pelting downpour, and Cole and his crew scrambling to get the delicate cloth and wood planes under cover.
That was not much fun.
Then, miraculously, the skies cleared, and we took off in the 1929 new standard British-made biplane.
That could be any of you this summer.
It's the greatest ride in the world.
It is a great ride. And I think that is a little taste of what Cole Palen was all about. And I really think that of all the interviews I've seen of him, that's one of the best that catches him in his natural state. Just a quick side, but Maynard Hamm came across this photograph here, which I'll leave up on the table. This is the exact same type of airplane that we're still flying rides with at the Aerodrome. And Maynard's father took a ride in 1929, and this is right over in front of where the Napa store is now. Airplane in the film, but it's actually American built. Anyway, the pilot of this airplane was a guy named Johnny Miller from Poughkeepsie. And Johnny Miller just passed away 4 or 5 years ago at 101 years old maybe? Yeah. Anyway, he was Cole Palen's hero, and he gave Cole Palen his first airplane ride in a new standard biplane. And here's a picture of it sitting right over on Route 9 South. A new standard D-25 was hopping rides in Red Hook in 1929, and is still hopping rides at the Aerodrome on a regular basis as well. So a little history of how Cole got to the point of where he did in that video. He grew up in Red Oaks Mills outside of Poughkeepsie. At that time, the old Poughkeepsie Airport was, the traffic pattern was right over his dad's farm. He watched these new standards and all these biplanes from the late 20s and 30s flying around. And that's how he became bitten with the what he called aeromania, bitten by the flying bug. He served in World War II as an infantryman on the ground, was involved in the Battle of the Bulge, and after World War II on the GI Bill, he was going to school down at Roosevelt Field on Long Island, getting his airplane mechanics license, and he poked around a bunch of the old hangars down there. That's the same airfield that Lindbergh had taken off from, and so many other record-breaking flights either took off from Roosevelt Field or ended there. And in one of the hangars, he found 9 World War I airplanes, disassembled. Some were stacked up on their nose to conserve space, and he wondered what the deal was with these airplanes. Well, they had been put on display after World War I to show the American public what World War I airplanes looked like, and then as time marched on, they were kind of shoved aside and forgotten about, essentially. Cole graduated from school, came back up here to the Hudson Valley. He was working for Texaco, had his airplane mechanics license, had his private pilot's license, but was working for Texaco, a full-time job. And he found out that those 9 World War I airplanes were going to be put up for public bid. They were going to knock down the hangar, put up a shopping mall, which is still there. And the Smithsonian took 3 of the airplanes that they thought were the most historically significant, and the remaining 6 went up for public bid. So Cole scraped together every dollar he had, what he called the life savings of a buck private, and submitted a bid on these airplanes, and was notified a few weeks later that his bid was accepted. And he had 30 days to get these 6 airplanes off of Long Island. As near as we can tell, he paid about $1,500 for those 6 World War I airplanes. As near as we can tell. Nobody really knows for sure, but nonetheless, it was all the money he had back then. It was a lot of money. So he began transporting them one by one, trailering them disassembled from Long Island up to his dad's farm, a 100-mile trip or so. And the first airplane he got flying was a 1918 SPAD-13, a French-built World War I fighter. Captain Eddie Rickenbacker, America's ace of aces, flew SPADs. And he assembled it at the Stormville Airport, which still exists. Pete O'Brien, the owner of that airport, just passed away at 104 years old. 104 years old. And he helped Cole to get that airplane ready. Here it is on the cover of a Great Plains book. And so he essentially taught himself how to fly a World War I airplane. And he thought it was great. He couldn't keep all the airplanes at his dad's farm anymore. He began looking for a piece of property, and searching the Hudson Valley, he ended up on Norton Road. The property out there was owned by a surveyor by the name of Mr. Teal. I don't know if any of you remember him or not. I never met him, obviously, but I guess Mr. Teal was kind of a character in himself, lived out in the old farmhouse by himself, rode around on a bicycle doing his surveying. Unfortunately, he was murdered out there at the farmhouse, unsolved murder to this day, as they say, and the property sat vacant, and Cole Palen was able to purchase that property, I guess in a bank auction or a bank sale, something of that nature, in 1958. And it was sort of abandoned farmland. He moved into the farmhouse. He was a single man, living very, very simply, which he continued to do the rest of his life. And he started moving his airplanes there, putting up these makeshift sheds, used some of the barns that were out there. Contacted Oak Cookingham, whose son Lee is still running Fast Tracks Contracting here in Red Hook. And Oak Cookingham came out and carved in 1,000 feet of runway for $1,000. And in 1959, the first airplane landed there. From then on, Cole sort of followed a dream, really. He was doing just what he wanted to do. He kept his job at Texaco, but he was spending more and more time with the old airplanes. And eventually, I don't know if it was his choice or Texaco's choice, but somebody said, look, you have to pick one or the other. And he chose to go with his old airplanes, and thankfully for all of us, he did that. So he committed himself to the airplanes. He began getting some more of them flying. He got some great help from people in the early years, and great help from people even today. There's always been a constant flow of aviation nuts that have come through there that gave him the help to make it all happen. The King family, which is well represented here today, were one of the first. They were out there in the early 1960s. Bob Love, you may remember Bob Love from the IBM days. He was another character. The Bainbridges, there was quite a few, and I shouldn't begin naming them, so I'll leave somebody out. But a great group of people came along that were enthused about these old airplanes, just like Cole was. And his enthusiasm was infectious. If you spent a couple of minutes with him, you would be wanting to work on those airplanes, whether you liked them or not. He just had that way to catch the spirit of everything and make people excited.